What if Earth was never our final destination? What if everything, our DNA, our survival, was part of a larger plan? I've seen glimpses of that truth through stories hidden deep in the subconscious. And now I can't unsee it. This is not just a theory. It may already be happening. Many researchers and thinkers have long speculated about the fragility of Earth's future. A potential cataclysm caused by environmental collapse, tectonic shifts, or a cosmic event could one day erase the civilization as we know it. But within these apocalyptic visions lies a different perspective. It is not merely a prophecy of destruction, but a transition, a reset. Various sources, including the work of hypnotherapist Dolores Cannon, suggest that Earth's eventual collapse may serve as a filter, a stage of transformation where only the most resilient forms of life will continue forward. And perhaps this survival will not be random. There is a theory that certain individuals may have been genetically prepared in advance. They may possess enhanced resistance to disease, a body more adaptable to environmental toxins, and a mind attuned to a new way of living. According to this view, genetic intervention, possibly by extraterrestrial intelligence, has been occurring for millennia, not as a form of control, but as a method of preservation. By subtly guiding human evolution, these so-called guardians may have been ensuring that when a global collapse does occur, human life refined and adapted will continue. This leads to a provocative question. Could a new species emerge from the ashes of the old? A species not entirely alien, but no longer fully human either? Such a transformation may already be underway. Some believe that individuals with extraordinary tolerance, unusual physical resilience, or unique mental capacities could be early examples of this next phase in human evolution. These people, if they exist, might be the foundation for survival on a post-collapse Earth, or even settlers on another planet prepared to host life. The concept challenges conventional understanding, but it offers a vision in which extinction is not the end but the beginning of something deliberately designed. Perhaps humanity is not a finished product. Perhaps it is still being shaped for the world that is yet to come. One of the most intriguing aspects of modern metaphysical research is the recurring idea of genetic intervention, a process through which humanity's DNA has been subtly modified over time by advanced, non-human intelligences. This hypothesis suggests that Earth is not merely evolving on its own, but under supervision. Some accounts, particularly those collected under deep hypnosis, describe beings with the capability to manipulate genetic structures, preparing the human body to survive environments that may soon become uninhabitable to our current biological form. From increasing resistance to cancers and diseases to enhancing mental clarity and emotional resilience, the changes are said to be gradual, precise, and intentional. These efforts are not portrayed as acts of domination, but of stewardship. In this context, extraterrestrials are not conquerors, they are guardians. Guardians who, according to many regressions and channelings, have watched over humanity for millions, perhaps billions of years. Their role appears to be one of quiet support, ensuring that life on Earth continues even when nature resets the stage. There are stories of individuals who have memories, either real or symbolic, of being immune to widespread illness and of being called to aid others during times of great planetary crisis. These individuals may represent prototypes of what humanity could become. They may have been genetically optimized to survive in altered climates, polluted ecosystems, or even on completely different worlds. Some researchers believe there is a dual plan at play. One group of selected individuals may be destined to survive and rebuild on Earth after the collapse of the current systems. Another group may be prepared for life beyond Earth to carry the seed of humanity to a new planet, a blank slate, ready to be terraformed and cultivated. In both cases, survival is not merely biological. It is evolutionary. It involves becoming something new, something that is both human and more than human. The guardians in this view are not simply observers. They are caretakers. They prepare. They wait. And when the time comes, they may be the ones who guide the chosen few into the next great chapter of existence. This vision challenges our notions of identity, purpose, and destiny. But if even part of it is true, then humanity's path may have been watched and shaped far longer than we've ever imagined. If life on Earth were to collapse entirely, where would humanity go? For many, this question leads to dark conclusions. But within the framework of this larger hypothesis, there is another possibility that Earth is not the final stage, but one of many. There are claims often consistent across unrelated accounts suggesting that some individuals are already being prepared for relocation to another planet. This place, though not named, is described as young, pristine, and uninhabited, a kind of blank canvas for human life to begin again. The process would begin slowly. Initial colonists would not bring civilization as we know it, but rather act as biological seeds tested and observed to see how life could unfold in a foreign environment. Basic organisms might be introduced first, followed by more complex life, genetically tailored to fit the new ecosystem. Some even describe this as a scientific experiment, with humanity taking on the role that the so-called guardians once played on Earth. Not in a malicious way, but as responsible caretakers of a new world. It is a concept that flips the narrative. Humans are no longer passive subjects in an alien agenda, but future architects of life themselves. According to these stories, experimentation would be guided by higher authorities, either advanced extraterrestrial beings or human scientists working under their supervision. There would be protocols, ethical boundaries, and long-term monitoring. And just as humanity has been watched for millennia, the new species that emerge either through natural evolution or guided design would also be closely observed. These emerging beings would not be abandoned. They would be monitored through generations to see how they develop, what choices they make, and whether they repeat the mistakes of their predecessors. Eventually, these new life forms might become self-aware, civilized, capable of independent thought and action. And when that happens, direct supervision would end. They would be left to evolve on their own terms. But observers would remain. Not to interfere, but to understand, to watch how life chooses its own path. And if that moment ever comes, humanity may become the watchers just as we once were the watched. This shift in perspective reveals something powerful, the idea that the role of creator is not reserved for gods or higher beings. It may one day belong to us. When a species gains the ability to create life, a profound responsibility follows. What happens when the beings we've helped shape begin to evolve in ways we didn't expect? According to the theories gathered through regressions and metaphysical research, the new species, whether formed through natural adaptation or genetic design, would initially require guidance. There would be adjustments, support, even corrections. But at some point, they must be left to grow on their own. This is where the moral dilemma begins. If a species begins to show signs of aggression or develops technologies that threaten to destroy their own world, what role should their creators play? Do they intervene? Or do they let the course of evolution unfold naturally? Some believe that early interventions might be necessary, not to control, but to prevent collapse. Others argue that interference would compromise the authenticity of their development. That struggle, mistakes, and even conflict are essential for growth. This philosophical tension mirrors the very questions we ask of our own origin. Were we ever guided, corrected, protected from our own self-destructive tendencies? There are stories within hypnosis sessions that describe the presence of mentors or visitors who lived among early civilizations not as rulers but as teachers. Figures who showed humans how to gather food, build shelters, and coexist. These mentors were often later remembered as gods not because they demanded worship, but because their knowledge seemed divine. And yet, at a certain point, they stepped back, no longer offering answers, allowing humanity to stumble, fail, and rise again. It is suggested that this same process would occur with any new species seeded by human hands. Guidance at the beginning, distance in maturity, but always observation. Watchers would remain quietly monitoring evolution across generations. And if things ever moved toward irreversible destruction, a choice would have to be made. Do we let them fall? Or do we break the rule of non-interference and step in? The answer is not simple, even for those who once were the experiment. Because once humanity holds the power of creation, it must also confront the deepest question of all: is life sacred only when it is our own? Or do we honor even the life we create, no matter how flawed, no matter how far it strays? At some point, every experiment reaches a critical threshold, the moment when observation must become decision. According to several theories, if a newly developed species begins to evolve rapidly, if it becomes creative, intelligent, and technologically advanced, it may also begin to explore power. But what if that power turns destructive? What if the species begins to build weapons of immense capability? What if it starts wars, pollutes its environment, and threatens not only its own existence, but the balance of its entire planetary system? This scenario raises a pressing question: would the creators intervene? Or would they allow natural consequences to unfold even if it means watching an entire world fall? Some researchers believe that if the collapse of such a civilization posed a greater cosmic risk, then a higher governing force, possibly a kind of interstellar authority, might step in. Not to punish, but to contain the damage. Because if one planet self-destructs violently enough, it could affect surrounding celestial bodies, causing ripple effects across the solar system or even further into the galaxy. In such a case, silence is no longer an option. Breaking the rule of non-interference becomes not just a choice, but a necessity. The guardians who until then had remained hidden may reveal themselves, not as invaders, but as caretakers of a larger order. And when that happens, the truth would be exposed that the species thought to be alone was never truly alone. That their makers were always watching, guiding from a distance, ready to act when the consequences threatened more than just a single world. But how would such beings be received? Would they be feared? Worshipped? Rejected? And more importantly, would the revelation that they were created change the identity, the self-worth, or the future of those who believed themselves to be autonomous? This is not just a hypothetical dilemma. It mirrors questions we, as humans, might one day face if we too become creators of new life. Because at some point, the observer must become responsible. And the line between stewardship and control becomes impossibly thin. Among the most profound concepts uncovered in hypnosis sessions and metaphysical accounts is the idea that time, as humans perceive it, is not real. Not in the way we think. We see time as linear, a steady progression from past to present to future. Every experience must occur in sequence. Every action tied to a clock. But many beings described in regression sessions, especially those considered extraterrestrial, do not experience time this way at all. They describe it as fluid, nonlinear, and even irrelevant. To them, all moments may exist simultaneously. The past and future are simply different vantage points of the same reality. This creates a profound barrier between them and us. Because as long as humanity remains confined to linear time, we remain trapped in thought, in technology, and in evolution. This may be one reason why space travel, in its conventional form, has proven so limited. We try to reach the stars using fuel, physics, and propulsion all bound to our understanding of time and movement. But what if true space travel isn't about distance at all? What if it's about frequency? Some sources suggest that in order to move beyond our planet, we must first move beyond our concept of time. We must learn to collapse time, or to step outside of it to access dimensions where movement is not restricted by space or chronology. There are reports of time distortion phenomena, missing time, where hours vanish without memory, and compressed time, where events unfold impossibly fast. These occurrences, while often dismissed, may point to deeper truths, that time is elastic and can bend under certain conditions, and that extraterrestrial beings, by mastering this, can appear and disappear instantly, move across dimensions, and observe our world from vantage points we cannot comprehend. For them, there's no rush, no waiting, only being. But for us, locked in minutes and hours, truth must arrive slowly, bit by bit. Perhaps this is why the knowledge comes in fragments, one piece at a time, just enough for our minds to absorb. Because to know too much too fast would break the very structure we've built our reality upon. Understanding time as illusion isn't just a scientific idea. It's a spiritual awakening. A key that could unlock a new level of human evolution if we're willing to let go of the clock. If time is not linear, then space may not be fixed either. According to numerous metaphysical accounts, true interstellar travel is not a journey through distance but a shift in vibration. Beings from other worlds don't necessarily cross space the way humans imagine. They don't travel millions of miles across the galaxy. Instead, they change frequency, phasing in and out of dimensions that exist parallel to our own. These dimensions are not fantasy. They may be layered realities that coexist with ours, but remain invisible because of their different vibrational states. And this, perhaps, is the secret behind UFOs, why they appear suddenly and vanish just as quickly, why they evade radar, defy gravity, and move in ways that defy our physics. It is not magic. It is science, just a science we haven't yet grasped. Those beings who operate on higher vibrational frequencies exist in realms where thought shapes matter, and movement is governed not by propulsion, but by intent. When they enter our dimension, they must lower their frequency, a process that some describe as painful or destabilizing. Likewise, if a human were to enter one of their realms, our bodies would need to raise their frequency, which could cause serious physical and mental stress. This may explain why only certain people can endure direct contact, and why most encounters happen through dreams, altered states, or trance. In this model, spacecraft serve not as vehicles in the conventional sense, but as frequency containers holding an environment, vibration, and gravity field compatible with both the traveler and the realm they're entering. Some of the smaller crafts, often associated with gray beings, are said to be more adaptable to our vibrational range. They serve as bridges between dimensions, capable of interacting with Earth without causing physical harm to either side. And what of the beings themselves? Some appear humanoid. Others are purely energetic, lacking any fixed form. They manifest only when needed, projecting a shape we can perceive. But their true essence may be far beyond matter. For them, stepping into our world is like stepping underwater, brief, disorienting, and limited. And yet, they come. Because observation matters. Because perhaps, like us, they are searching for something. If humanity is to meet them as equals, we must do more than build faster ships. We must evolve to sense what cannot be seen, and to recognize reality not by what it looks like, but by what it vibrates as. In doing so, we may discover that the universe is far more crowded than we ever imagined, not with planets, but with possibilities. As researchers delve deeper into the accounts of contactees and hypnosis subjects, a recurring theme begins to emerge. Not all beings are physical. Many who claim to have interacted with extraterrestrial intelligences describe entities composed entirely of energy without form, without body, existing in a state of pure vibration. These beings don't need spaceships. They don't rely on language or tools. Their communication is often described as instantaneous, mind to mind, emotion to emotion. And yet, when necessary, they can manifest. Some choose to take on a humanoid form in order to interact with us, more easily appearing in ways that are familiar, even comforting. But their essence remains non-physical. This raises a critical question. If these beings are so advanced, why do some of them still use spacecraft at all? One possible explanation is that the ships are not for them, but for us. Inside these vessels, they can create an environment where frequencies are adjusted, allowing human beings to withstand temporary exposure to higher vibrational states without experiencing disorientation or harm. Some small crafts seem specifically designed to operate within Earth's frequency range. They're often associated with the small gray beings which, according to some theories, may not be a biological race at all, but genetically engineered helpers. Created by more advanced beings, these grays are said to perform specific tasks: collecting samples, conducting tests, and facilitating contact. They are biological tools, functional and focused, not malevolent but purposeful. Their resemblance to their creators may be intentional, a design choice based on familiarity or efficiency. The larger crafts, on the other hand, rarely land or interact directly. They remain at higher altitudes or entirely outside our visible range, possibly because their vibrational field is incompatible with Earth's dense frequency. For a human to board such a ship, their molecular structure would need to be temporarily altered. Their frequency raised, their body stabilized in that state just long enough to function inside the vessel. But such experiences come at a cost. Upon returning, individuals may suffer disorientation, fatigue, even physical marks, the result of their systems readjusting to Earth's lower vibration. This is perhaps why most reported experiences involve small ships and limited contact. Because prolonged exposure to higher vibrational realities may simply be too much for the human body. For now. As we evolve, that may change. And when it does, the veil between dimensions may thin, not because the universe changed, but because we did. Among the most frequently reported phenomena in extraterrestrial contact experiences is what researchers call missing time. Individuals describe entire blocks of time, minutes, hours, sometimes even days, vanishing without explanation. They remember seeing a strange light, hearing a vibration, or feeling a sudden wave of exhaustion. And then, nothing. Until they wake up again, often in a different place, with no memory of how they got there. Initially, this phenomenon was dismissed as imagination, dream, or coincidence. But as more cases emerged, often with consistent patterns, investigators began to ask deeper questions. What happens during those missing hours? In sessions of deep hypnosis, subjects sometimes recover astonishing detail. They describe being approached by non-human entities, escorted onto ships, and examined using devices that defy modern science. But not all of these experiences are invasive or frightening. Some feel peaceful. Others report receiving information as if knowledge were being downloaded directly into their minds. Interestingly, not all missing time is tied to alien contact. In some cases, hypnosis reveals that the memory loss is the result of the mind protecting itself from trauma or deeply uncomfortable situations. The subconscious, acting as a guardian, seals off certain memories not to hide the truth, but to shield the individual from distress. This makes the process of uncovering truth extremely delicate. Investigators and regression therapists must navigate carefully, ensuring that what surfaces is not shaped by suggestion or expectation. Sometimes the simplest explanation is the correct one. But in many cases, subjects describe things they never consciously studied or imagined details consistent with other reports from people they've never met. These include physical side effects, unusual bruises, burns, or marks that appear after the event with no known cause. Some even describe changes in perception, a heightened awareness, or a feeling of having touched something beyond ordinary experience. And in rare cases, a subject may realize that they were not the target of the contact. They were simply there in the wrong place at the right moment. These incidental witnesses may remember less, but what they do recall can offer clues about what's truly happening. Because even when memory fails, the subconscious remembers. And it speaks not through fear or fantasy, but through fragments of truth waiting to be carefully pieced together. This is why many researchers now treat missing time not as an anomaly, but as a signal. A sign that something unusual, profound, and perhaps essential has occurred. Throughout the accounts gathered from regression sessions, encounters, and ancient myths, a recurring pattern begins to reveal itself. We are not simply the observed. We may be the next observers. Just as humanity may have been guided, adjusted, and prepared for survival or transformation, there is a growing belief that one day we may take on that same role as caretakers, guides, or even creators of new worlds. This transition is not just technological. It is philosophical. It is evolutionary. Some theories suggest that in the distant future, humanity could become the architects of life on other planets, seeding basic organisms, monitoring progress, and stepping in when necessary. Not out of control, but out of responsibility. The life we may help shape would grow, evolve, and eventually reach self-awareness. At that point, just as it was done for us, the supervision would diminish. Observation would replace intervention. And if those new beings ever threatened their world, the decision to act or not to act would fall to us. This perspective reframes the entire narrative. Extraterrestrials are no longer simply them, they may be us in another form, another time. Or perhaps they are what we are becoming. If humanity is ever to join a larger cosmic community, we must understand not only science, but ethics, balance, and humility. The universe may be filled with life, but also with laws, patterns, and roles that repeat over and over. Creation, guidance, release, and then observation. This final role, the watcher, is not passive. It is deeply engaged, quietly alert, and always learning. The watchers do not rule. They remember. They study what went right and what went wrong. They carry the weight of knowledge forward, not to control, but to ensure that life, in its many forms, has a chance to grow towards something better. Perhaps that is the future humanity is heading toward. Not just as travelers among stars, but as witnesses to the unfolding of life itself. And maybe in this vast cosmic experiment, our greatest purpose is not to conquer, but to understand. Thank you for staying with us on this journey, a journey through time, space, and the deeper questions of who we are and who we might become. Perhaps we don't have all the answers, but sometimes the act of asking is the first step to remembering. If this video sparked something in you, a memory, a question, a strange familiarity, then maybe that too is part of the design. We invite you to share your thoughts, your experiences, or even your dreams in the comments below. Because every story, no matter how small, could be a missing piece of something far greater. If you found value in this content, consider subscribing to the channel, liking this video, and sharing it with someone who might be ready to hear it. And if you believe, as we do, that humanity's story is far from over, then stay curious, stay open, and above all keep watching the sky. Until next time.